They thought the human was just a relic, a survivor of a species that time had forgotten. But when Elias touched the ship's heart, something inside the galaxy stirred. Data turned to dreams. Circuits began to remember love, courage, and loss. And in that moment, the machines realized they were never truly alone. Lights swell, a pulse, like a heartbeat in metal. This was no accident of fate. This was the beginning of humanity's second dawn. Elias sat cross-legged on the cold metallic floor, staring at the strange symbols floating in the air before him. Each symbol was alive, glowing softly, rippling with energy like fireflies trapped in glass. They didn't stay still. They pulsed with rhythm, reacting faintly to sound, movement, even emotion. Across from him, Lyra knelt gracefully, her long silver-blue hair shimmering under the glow of the lightstream panels. Her expression was calm, but her eyes burned with curiosity. For centuries, her people had studied what was left behind by the humans. Relics, records, scattered echoes of a civilization that once burned brighter than any star. And now, one of them sat before her, breathing, thinking, alive. The human, and he was trying to learn. "Aaron," she said softly, her voice melodic and warm. A glowing symbol appeared between them, a curve of golden light shaped like a wave. Elias tilted his head, studying it. He repeated the sound clumsily. Ren?" The symbol flickered uncertainly, dimming at the edges before fading to a weak pulse. Lyra exhaled, not in disappointment, but with patience. "No, listen, not just to the sound. Listen to how I feel it." She placed her hand over her chest, where a faint glow pulsed beneath her skin. Her voice resonated softly, not in volume but in emotion. When she said it again, Elias didn't just hear the tone. He felt the warmth of it vibrate in the air, like sunlight breaking through mist. He tried again. This time, he didn't mimic her. He understood her. "Aaron." The symbol burst into full brilliance, glowing gold, sending waves of light rippling through the air. Lyra froze. Her luminous eyes widened. You did it," Elias blinked, surprised. "I did?" The room itself seemed to respond. The walls breathing softly, energy veins glowing along the seams. Lyra smiled faintly, her voice a whisper. "You felt it. The word is not sound. It is connection." Hours passed, or maybe days. Time flowed differently aboard the ship. They sat together, surrounded by hundreds of floating glyphs, their light painting gentle halos across the metallic room. Every sound they made sent ripples through the air. When Elias laughed, some of the symbols shimmered brighter. When Lyra smiled, they softened to warm amber tones. He learned that their language was not meant to speak ideas. It was meant to share emotion. A language of empathy, of resonance. It wasn't what you said. It was how you felt when you said it. And somehow, Elias, a human out of time, understood it more easily than any being she had ever met. At one point, as they rested, Lyra sat beside him, her gaze fixed on the softly pulsing glyphs. "My people forgot how to feel," she said quietly. "When we turned our hearts into circuits, we believed it was progress. We didn't realize what we'd lost until it was gone." Elias leaned back, staring at the ceiling where threads of light drifted like stars. "Humans did that too once," he murmured. "We built machines to think for us, and stopped listening to what made us alive." Their eyes met, human and alien, old and new. In that silence, the ship itself seemed to listen. Then Lyra raised a hand and drew a symbol in the air, one Elias hadn't seen before. It glowed faint blue, soft and trembling. "What does that one mean?" he asked. Her gaze softened. "It means trust." He hesitated, then reached out. His fingers passed through the light, and for a moment the glow merged around his skin. The symbol shifted color, blue to white, a shared resonance. Both of them felt it, a quiet, unseen thread connecting their hearts. As they practiced, the ship grew alive around them. Corridors lit softly when Elias walked by. The walls hummed faintly to the rhythm of his heartbeat. Somewhere deep in the ship's core, systems that hadn't responded for centuries began to stir. The language wasn't just a way to speak. It was a code woven into the ship's consciousness itself. And Elias, without knowing it, was reawakening it. By the end of their 100th word, The chamber was glowing like dawn. Golden symbols floated in the air, spiraling around them like tiny suns. Lyra stepped forward, her expression gentle but filled with awe. When you speak, the ship listens. It remembers you. Elias looked around at the light dancing on his hands and whispered, half to himself, maybe it remembers all of us. She smiled, a small, fragile thing filled with wonder. Then maybe we are not as different as we thought. Outside, through the vast viewing window, the stars shimmered softly, each pulse of light beating in rhythm with their newfound language. And in that moment, as two beings from opposite ends of history learned to speak without words, the universe itself seemed to exhale, as if, after 26,000 years, it had finally found its voice again. The peace didn't last. It never does. For weeks, Elias and Lyra had worked side by side, unlocking the language of light, reawakening the dormant systems that had once connected entire civilizations. But deep inside the ship's core, something else stirred. Something older, the archivum. It was the ship's heart, a consciousness built to record all of history, every voice, every war, every silence. And when it detected the presence of a human, it did what it was programmed to do. It remembered. The corridor lights dimmed, replaced by crimson warning glyphs that shimmered across the walls. Lyra froze, her silver blue skin reflecting the alarm's glow. It's waking, Elias frowned. What's waking? The core, she whispered. It's accessing forbidden archives. Human archives. Before she could finish, the walls rippled, transforming into a cascade of light and image. Elias staggered back as holographic projections flooded the air, cities burning, starships falling, entire worlds consumed in fire. Lyra gasped. These are human wars. He watched in silence, his face pale under the violent glow. Cities he didn't recognize, armies in armor he'd never seen. A future that came long after he was gone, and ended long before she was born. This can't be right, Elias murmured. We weren't monsters. Lyra turned to him, her eyes filled with both fear and awe. Your people burned half the stars in this galaxy. No, he said quietly. Then louder. No, that's not who we were. The ship pulsed. A low, resonant hum, like a heart remembering a wound. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, not human, not alien. It was mechanical, vast, yet sorrowful. Designation, Homo sapiens. Status, extinct. Legacy, war, fire, defiance. Elias stepped forward, fists clenched. That's not all we were. Correction, incomplete data. Accessing, empathy sequence. The walls flickered again, the fire fading, replaced by something else. Images of humans reaching out to other species. A child giving food to an alien refugee. A medic cradling a dying soldier, not caring what species he was. A human hand raised in peace. The archivum's tone changed, growing quieter, almost uncertain. Emotion detected. Compassion. Anomaly. Lyra stared in disbelief. It's learning from you. Elias shook his head slowly. No, it's remembering. The ship began to glow again, this time not in red, but in gold. The light spread like sunrise through metal corridors, across endless chambers filled with sleeping machines. And then, something impossible happened. The core spoke again. But this time, in the language of light, not to Lyra, not to its own kind, to him. Human, why did you burn the stars? Elias stood there, surrounded by light that felt almost alive. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of truth. Because, he said softly, we forgot what it meant to feel. We built empires, machines, weapons, and when we looked up, we couldn't see the stars anymore. And now, he looked toward Lyra, at her curious eyes, her quiet strength, her voice that had become his anchor in this alien world. Now, he whispered, we remember. The ship fell silent. Then, one by one, the lights across the core shifted from gold to white. In the darkness between stars, the ancient vessel, dead for millennia, began to hum again, reawakening from its eternal slumber. Lyra stepped forward, her voice barely a whisper. It's responding to you. The ship trusts you, he exhaled. Then maybe we can give it a reason to hope again. Outside, the starlight grew brighter, blazing like dawn after an age of night. And deep within the ancient heart of the galaxy, something long dead began to dream. The Archivum was alive now, its vast mind stretching through the void, connecting to satellites, data nodes, and long-dead relays scattered across the stars. For the first time in 26,000 years, it was remembering, and it all began with a single human heartbeat. Elias stood in the ship's control hall, vast as a cathedral, filled with pillars of light reaching to infinity. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes reflecting the golden glow that pulsed through every surface. The air itself shimmered with energy, alive with a song only they could hear. "Core status, stabilized," said a soft mechanical voice. "Directive shift, preservation of life." Initiated. Lyra turned to Elias, awe and disbelief written across her face. "You changed it." "The ship's entire purpose, rewritten." He smiled faintly, exhaustion clear in his eyes. "Didn't change it, just reminded it what it was for." For days, the ship moved through the stars, reawakening forgotten systems. It sent signals to lost colonies, restored the orbits of drifting stations, and lit up the dark side of moons that hadn't seen light in millennia. Lyra's people began to arrive in small scout vessels. Drawn by the impossible signals, an ancient ship, reactivated by a human relic. But not all of them came in. Peace, the Council of Origin, the oldest and most powerful faction among her kind, believed humans were a myth best left buried. To them, Elias was a threat. When their fleet appeared on the horizon of stars, the Archivum trembled. Incoming warforms detected. "Probability of engagement, 97%. Lyra's eyes hardened. "They'll destroy everything. They don't understand what this means." Elias turned toward the viewport, where ships like silver daggers drifted into formation. His voice was calm. "Then we'll make them understand." In the central chamber, Elias stood before the glowing core. Its light pulsed to the rhythm of his breath, a connection so deep it felt almost alive. He placed his hand against it. Human presence recognized. Core link accessible. A flood of light consumed the chamber. Memories, voices, images. Millions of human lives, recorded and preserved in fragments of data. Elias fell to his knees as the memories poured through him. The laughter of children, the roar of rocket engines, the cries of soldiers, the whisper of lovers. It was all of humanity, crashing through him like a tide of emotion and memory. Lyra caught him, holding him steady as he struggled to breathe. "Stop, you'll burn yourself out." He shook his head, eyes glowing faintly with reflected light. "No, this isn't pain, it's who we were." Then he looked at her and smiled. "Tell your people to watch the sky." Outside, as the alien fleet advanced, the Archivum ignited. Golden light burst from its core, radiating out like a supernova. Not destructive, but awakening. Across the fleet, systems began to flicker and shift. Screens glowed with human words. Memories appeared, images of unity, compassion, courage. Every ship received the same signal, a simple message. "We are not your past. We are your beginning." The alien fleet hesitated. Crews stared in silence, watching the impossible glow ripple through space, not as a weapon, but as a story. A story older than war, but the surge came at a cost. Elias's body trembled, veins glowing with light as he poured every ounce of his life into stabilizing the core. "Lyra," he whispered, his voice faint. She gripped his hands, tears glimmering along the lines of her luminous skin. "You can't do this. There has to be another way." He smiled. That small human smile she had come to understand so well. "There's always another way, but someone has to light it first." Her hand tightened around his. "Don't leave me in the dark." He met her gaze, eyes soft, filled with warmth even as his light began to fade. "Then remember what we were, and tell them humanity never died. We just became the light." The core flared, brighter than any star. A wave of white gold energy swept through space, wrapping every ship, every world. In a moment of perfect stillness, then silence. When the light faded, Elias was gone. The core was quiet, peaceful. But his presence lingered, in the hum of the ship, in the rhythm of its systems, in every flicker of light that passed through the stars. Weeks later, as Lyra walked the newly restored corridors, she spoke softly to the ship. "Archivum," she said. "Record the following. New designation, Project Dawn. Primary directive, remember him. The walls pulsed gently in response, and for the briefest moment, a human voice echoed back. Always. She smiled, tears in her eyes, but warmth in her heart. Above her, the stars shimmered, not cold or distant anymore, but alive with memory. Somewhere in the deep, where data and dreams intertwined, a voice whispered through the static of eternity. Elias, and the galaxy, for the first time in 26,000 years, whispered back.